I'm Bryson, 35, a software engineer who thought I'd built the perfect life with my wife Jessica and our 7-year-old son Noah. Then came that devastating Tuesday when a drunk driver shattered everything we had. In my darkest hour, I called my parents desperate for support. Their response, "But it's your sister's birthday." That betrayal was just the beginning. A week later, as my son fought for his life, they showed up demanding half of Jessica's life insurance. If you're watching this, drop a comment letting me know where you're from, and hit subscribe to follow my journey through the darkest chapter of my life. Growing up, I always knew where I stood in my parents' hierarchy of affection. Robert and Linda Montgomery had 2 children, but only one favorite. My sister Amber, 3 years younger, could do no wrong in their eyes. From our earliest days, the pattern was clear. Her achievements were celebrated extravagantly, while mine were acknowledged with polite nods at best. When Amber won 3rd place in her 4th grade spelling bee, my parents threw her a party and bought her a new bike. When I qualified for the state mathematics championship in 8th grade, they couldn't attend because Amber had a dance recital the same weekend. "You understand, right? You're the responsible one," my mother would say. And I did understand all too well. I was the reliable child expected to succeed independently, while Amber needed constant support and encouragement. High school continued this pattern. I maintained straight A's, joined academic clubs, and worked part-time at the local grocery store to save for college. Meanwhile, Amber struggled academically but excelled socially. My parents paid for her cheerleading camps, her prom dresses, her frequent shopping trips with friends. When she crashed their car after sneaking out to a party, they grounded her for a week, but bought her a cell phone so she wouldn't feel isolated from her friends. When I asked for help with college application fees, they suggested I pick up extra shifts at work. College was my escape. I earned a partial scholarship to State University and worked 30 hours weekly to cover the rest. My parents contributed nothing, explaining that Amber's private high school tuition had stretched their finances. I didn't complain. The distance felt like freedom. Meanwhile, Amber enrolled in community college, dropped out after 1 semester, tried cosmetology school, quit that too. Then cycled through 3 more educational attempts, all funded by my parents. "She's just finding herself," they'd explain during holiday visits. "Not everyone knows their path right away like you did, Bryson." Then during my senior year, I met Jessica in a computer ethics class. She wasn't a computer science major, but took the course as an elective for her education degree. She sat next to me the first day, asked to borrow a pencil, and somehow never gave it back. I didn't mind. Her warm smile and genuine interest in everyone around her captivated me immediately. Our connection was instant and deep. Jessica listened when I spoke. Really listened. Something I hadn't experienced much in my family. She asked about my projects, remembered details about my friends, celebrated my accomplishments without qualification. After years of conditional affection, her unwavering support felt like a revelation. When I finally brought her home to meet my parents during spring break, their reaction was predictably lukewarm. They were polite, but distant. Halfway through dinner, the conversation shifted entirely to Amber's latest breakup and how devastated she was. Jessica squeezed my hand under the table, a silent acknowledgement of what I'd told her about my family dynamics. Later that night, as we drove back to campus, she said, "Your sister seems nice, but your parents don't see you clearly. It's their loss." That simple validation meant everything. We got engaged after graduation. My parents' response to our announcement was, "Are you sure you're ready for that commitment? You're both so young." I was 22, Jessica, 23. We had both secured jobs, mine at a software company, hers teaching 2nd grade. We were ready. Our wedding was small, just 50 guests in Jessica's parents' backyard. My parents attended, but spent most of the reception consoling Amber, who had broken up with her boyfriend the week before. Jessica's parents, in contrast, welcomed me like a son from day one, including me in family traditions and treating me with genuine affection. When Noah was born 2 years later, Jessica's parents drove 8 hours to meet him immediately. They stayed for 2 weeks cooking meals, helping with night feedings, and giving us precious moments to rest. My parents visited for an afternoon, brought a small gift, and mentioned they couldn't stay long because Amber needed help moving into her new apartment. Over the years, their pattern of minimal involvement continued. They missed Noah's birthdays because of scheduling conflicts, forgot to call on holidays, and rarely asked about him during our increasingly infrequent phone conversations. Jessica encouraged me to maintain the relationship, despite the hurt believing family connections were important for Noah. "They're missing out on knowing an amazing grandson and son," she would say. "But we can't force them to see what's right in front of them." Despite the emotional distance from my parents, we built a beautiful life. I advanced in my career, eventually becoming a senior software architect at a major tech company. Jessica became beloved at her elementary school, known for her patience with struggling students and creative teaching methods. Noah grew into a bright, curious boy with Jessica's kind heart and my analytical mind. We had everything that truly mattered: love, health, financial stability, and dreams for the future. Little did I know that the foundation we'd carefully built was about to be shaken to its core, and that the family who had always kept me at arm's length would soon reveal the true extent of their selfishness. By the time Noah turned 7, our life had settled into a comfortable rhythm that felt both secure and fulfilling. I had been promoted to lead software architect at Tech Solutions, overseeing a team of 12 developers and earning a salary that allowed us to live comfortably. After years of hard work, late nights debugging code, and countless weekends spent upgrading my skills, I had earned recognition in my field. My colleagues respected my input, and my managers valued my contributions enough to fast-track my career progression. Jessica had found her own success as an elementary school teacher. She taught second grade at Oak Ridge Elementary, just a 15-minute drive from our home. Her classroom was a vibrant space filled with books, art projects, and learning stations she designed herself. Parents requested her class, specifically knowing she had a special talent for identifying each child's unique learning style and adapting her teaching accordingly. Just 2 months before the accident, she had been named lead teacher for her grade level, a recognition of her dedication and skill that had brought happy tears to her eyes when she shared the news. "Can you believe it?" she had asked, dancing around our kitchen. "They picked me to coordinate the curriculum for all second grade classes." Our home was a 2-story colonial in Meadowbrook Estates, a friendly suburb with good schools and tree-lined streets where children rode bikes and neighbors knew each other's names. We had purchased it 5 years earlier, stretching our budget at the time, but seeing it as an investment in our future. Jessica had painted each room herself, choosing warm, cheerful colors that made the house feel instantly welcoming. Our backyard wasn't large, but had enough space for the swing set. Noah loved, and the vegetable garden Jessica tended with dedicated enthusiasm despite her less-than-green thumb. Noah was the center of our world. At 7, he was a bundle of energy and curiosity, with Jessica's warm brown eyes and my unruly dark hair that never stayed combed for more than an hour. He loved building elaborate Lego structures that would remain untouched in his room for weeks because he wasn't ready to dismantle his architecture. He collected interesting rocks and knew surprising facts about dinosaurs that he shared with anyone willing to listen. His laugh was infectious, starting as a giggle and building into full-body joy that could brighten even the most stressful day. Our family traditions were simple but meaningful. Friday nights were movie nights, with each family member taking turns choosing the film and a special snack. Saturday mornings meant pancakes with different-shaped cutters. Noah usually requested dinosaurs or spaceships. Sunday afternoons were for adventures, hiking local trails, visiting museums, or exploring nearby towns. During winter, we built blanket forts in the living room and read stories by flashlight. Each summer, we took a 2-week vacation, alternating between visiting Jessica's parents in Michigan and exploring new destinations. The year before the accident, we had driven along the California coast, camping under redwoods and collecting seashells on deserted beaches. Noah had declared it the best trip ever and carried a special pine cone home that still sat on his bookshelf. Jessica and I maintained a strong partnership through the everyday challenges of work, parenting, and maintaining a home. We had our disagreements, of course, but resolved them through conversation rather than conflict. After Noah went to bed, we often sat on the back porch with glasses of wine, talking about our days and making plans for the future. We were considering having another child, thinking Noah might benefit from a sibling. Jessica worried about starting over with diapers and sleepless nights, but the idea of expanding our family held a powerful appeal. Maybe next year, she had said just a week before the accident. Let me get settled into this lead teacher role first. We were financially responsible, living well within our means, and saving consistently. We both had life insurance policies through our employers. Nothing extravagant, but enough to provide security if something happened to either of us. It seemed like a distant, unlikely scenario when we signed the paperwork, just a prudent step taken by adults who understood that life holds no guarantees. The morning of the accident began like any other Tuesday. I woke at 6, showered and started the coffee while Jessica got Noah ready for school. We ate breakfast together at the kitchen island. Cereal for Noah, toast and fruit for Jessica, a protein bar for me as I reviewed my schedule for the day. Jessica reminded me she had a faculty meeting that afternoon and would be home later than usual. Noah mentioned his science project about the solar system was due Friday and asked if we could work on it that evening. Of course, buddy, I promised. I'll pick up more cotton balls for the asteroid belt on my way home. Jessica kissed me goodbye, her lips tasting of mint toothpaste and strawberry lip balm. Love you, she said. Don't forget we need milk. Love you more, I replied, our standard exchange. Text me when you're heading home. Noah hugged my legs. Bye, Dad. Don't work too hard. I watched them back out of the driveway, Jessica waving, Noah making a silly face through the window. I had no way of knowing it was the last time I would see my wife alive, the last normal morning our family would ever have. Had I known, I would have run after the car, held them both. Longer told Jessica again how much I loved her, how she had made my life complete in ways I never thought possible. Instead, I grabbed my laptop bag, locked the front door, and headed to work, blissfully unaware that in less than 4 hours my perfect life would be shattered beyond recognition. I was in the middle of a team meeting when my cell phone vibrated. Normally I would have ignored it, but something made me glance down. An unfamiliar local number. I excused myself and stepped into the hallway. Is this Bryson Montgomery? A woman's voice asked. Yes, that's me. This is Nurse Patterson from Memorial Hospital. There's been an accident involving Jessica and Noah Montgomery. You need to come to the emergency department immediately. The world tilted sideways. I remember asking if they were okay. The nurse's pause before answering told me everything. The doctors are with them now. Please come as quickly as you can. The 20-minute drive to the hospital exists in my memory as fragmented images, my hands shaking so badly I dropped my keys twice, my manager appearing beside me in the parking lot insisting she would drive me, traffic lights blurring as we sped through intersections, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. At the hospital, a social worker met me in the emergency department waiting area. Her gentle voice and sympathetic expression confirmed my worst fears before she even spoke. Mr. Montgomery, I'm so sorry to tell you that your wife Jessica was pronounced dead on arrival. The paramedics did everything they could, but her injuries were too severe. The words hit me physically like a blow to the chest that left me gasping for air. I collapsed into a chair, unable to stand. And Noah, I managed to ask. He's alive, but in critical condition. He's being prepped for emergency surgery right now. The doctor will come speak with you as soon as possible. The next few hours passed in a nightmarish blur. I signed consent forms, answered questions about Noah's medical history, and tried to comprehend what the trauma surgeon was telling me about internal bleeding, a fractured pelvis, and potential brain swelling. They needed to operate immediately. We'll do everything we can, the surgeon promised, squeezing my shoulder before hurrying away. A police officer appeared with preliminary details about the accident. A drunk driver had run a red light at high speed, T-boning Jessica's car on the driver's side. The impact had been catastrophic. The other driver survived with minor injuries and was already in custody, having failed a breathalyzer test at the scene. Later, I was asked to identify Jessica's body. Nothing could have prepared me for that moment. She looked peaceful but unrecognizable in ways I can't explain. The Jessica I knew, vibrant, smiling, full of life and movement, was gone. Only her physical shell remained still and silent under harsh fluorescent lights. I touched her hand, cold and motionless, and something inside me broke apart. I sat alone in the ICU waiting room during Noah's surgery, which lasted 4 hours. The hospital chaplain checked on me periodically, offering water, coffee, or simply silent companionship. Well-meaning nurses suggested I call family members for support. After 3 hours of paralyzed grief, I finally called my parents. My father answered, sounds of laughter and music in the background. "Dad," I said, my voice cracking. "There's been an accident. Jessica is dead, and Noah is in surgery. I'm at Memorial Hospital." The background noise continued. I heard him cover the phone and say something to someone else before responding. "Today, but it's your sister's birthday party. We've been planning this for months. Everyone's already here." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Did you hear what I said? Jessica is dead? My wife is dead." "Yes, that's terrible news," he replied, his tone more annoyed than sympathetic. "But there's nothing we can do about that now, is there? Noah will be fine, he's young. Why don't you call us tomorrow with an update?" We're in the middle of Amber's celebration. In the background, I heard my mother call, "Who is it?" And my father reply, "Just Bryson, with some bad news." I told him we'll talk tomorrow. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, listening to my sister's party continuing uninterrupted. Someone shouted, "Time for cake." My father said I should go. "Call us tomorrow." I ended the call without another word. Something cold and final settled in my chest. In my moment of unimaginable loss, when I needed my family most, they had chosen a birthday party over their own son and grandson. It wasn't surprising given our history, but the blatant callousness still stunned me. An hour later, Jessica's parents arrived, having driven at dangerous speeds from their home 3 states away. They rushed into the waiting room, faces pale with shock and grief. Jessica's mother, Patricia, embraced me wordlessly, both of us shaking with sobs. Her father, Michael, stood with his hand gripping my shoulder, tears streaming down his face. They asked no questions about why they should come or whether it was convenient. They simply came immediately and without hesitation, because their daughter and grandson needed them. The contrast with my own parents' response couldn't have been more stark. The surgeon finally appeared, looking exhausted but cautiously optimistic. Noah had survived the surgery. His injuries were extensive: a fractured pelvis, ruptured spleen, punctured lung, and concussion. He was stable but critical, and the next 48 hours would be crucial. They allowed me to see him briefly in the recovery room. My little boy, normally so animated and vibrant, lay unnaturally still among tubes, wires, and beeping machines. His face was swollen and bruised, a breathing tube obscuring most of his features. I touched his small hand, gently, careful to avoid disturbing the IV line. "I'm here, buddy," I whispered. "Daddy's right here." That first night, I refused to leave Noah's bedside. Patricia and Michael took turns sitting with me, bringing coffee, speaking to medical staff, and handling practical matters I couldn't begin to focus on. They called their pastor, contacted Jessica's friends, and began the horrifying process of funeral arrangements while I kept vigil over my son. Neither of my parents called to check on us. The days after the accident blended together in a haze of hospital corridors, medical terminology, and crushing grief. Noah remained in critical but stable condition. The doctors cautiously upgraded his status after he made it through the crucial 48-hour window without complications. He required additional surgery to repair his pelvis, followed by what would be months of physical therapy. But he was alive. The brain swelling they had feared subsided without intervention, a small mercy in an otherwise merciless situation. I barely left the hospital, sleeping in a recliner beside Noah's bed, leaving only to shower in the family waiting room's small bathroom. Jessica's parents stayed at our house, bringing me fresh clothes and forcing me to eat something other than vending machine snacks. They moved through their own grief with quiet dignity, supporting me while mourning their only daughter. In quiet moments when Noah was sleeping, the reality of Jessica's death would hit me anew. The permanence of it. The finality. The 1,000 little ways. She would never again be part of our daily lives. I would never again hear her laugh, feel her hand in mine, watch her brush her hair before bed. Noah would grow up without his mother's guidance, without her fierce love and gentle wisdom. Through it all, my phone remained silent. No calls from my parents, no texts asking how Noah was progressing. Patricia noticed eventually. "Have your parents been by when I wasn't here?" she asked gently. I shook my head, not trusting myself to speak. Should I call them? Maybe they don't realize how serious this island. They know, I said simply. They're busy with Amber's birthday celebrations. Patricia's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief, to a controlled anger I had never seen in her normally gentle face. She didn't comment further, just squeezed my hand and changed the subject. While Noah remained unconscious, I was forced to deal with the practical aspects of Jessica's death. The funeral home, the cemetery plot, the obituary. Each decision felt impossible, like a betrayal of the life we should still be living together. Michael helped me select a casket, taking over when I stood frozen in the showroom, unable to process that I was choosing a box in which my wife's body would remain forever. Jessica's colleagues from school created a memorial fund for Noah's medical expenses. My coworkers organized a meal train that would last for months. Friends I hadn't spoken to since college reached out with condolences and offers of help. The community rallied around us in ways I never could have anticipated. On the third day, a bouquet of flowers arrived at the hospital with a card signed by my parents. No visit, no call. Just flowers with a generic message of sympathy that could have been for anyone. I placed them on the windowsill without comment. 5 days after the accident, Jessica's funeral took place at the church where we had married 8 years earlier. Noah remained hospitalized, still unaware that his mother was gone. The church overflowed with people whose lives Jessica had touched: students and their parents, fellow teachers, neighbors, college friends, even the barista from the coffee shop she visited every morning. Their stories about Jessica, her kindness, her humor, her small daily acts of generosity, both comforted and devastated me. My parents arrived 10 minutes after the service began, slipping into a back pew. Amber accompanied them, looking appropriately solemn, but checking her phone repeatedly during the eulogies. They approached me during the reception afterward, offering awkward condolences that felt scripted and hollow. Jessica was a lovely person, my mother said, as if describing a casual acquaintance rather than her daughter-in-law of 8 years. How's Noah doing? Still critical, I replied, the anger I'd been suppressing threatening to surface. He's had 2 surgeries so far. Kids are resilient, my father offered. He'll bounce back. Amber shifted impatiently. We can't stay long, she explained. I have a dress fitting at 4. Wedding plans. You know how at Island. I stared at her, momentarily speechless. My wife was being buried that day. My son lay in a hospital bed fighting for his life. And my sister was worried about a dress fitting. No, I said quietly. I don't know how at Island. Please excuse me. I walked away, joining Jessica's parents, who were speaking with the pastor. I didn't look back. Didn't see if my family stayed or left. In that moment, I made a decision: they were no longer my family in any meaningful sense of the word. The pretense was over. After the funeral, Noah finally regained consciousness. The doctors warned me he would be disoriented and in pain. What they couldn't prepare me for was the moment he asked for his mother. Where's Mom? He mumbled, his voice raspy from the breathing tube that had been removed the day before. I held his small hand between both of mine, summoning strength I didn't know I possessed. There was an accident, buddy, I began, my voice breaking despite my best efforts. You and Mom were hurt very badly. His eyes, so like Jessica's, widened with fear. Is Mom in another room? Can she come see me? The pediatric grief counselor had advised me to be direct to avoid euphemisms that might confuse him. Children, she explained, need clarity, even in the most painful circumstances. No, Noah, I said gently. Mom was hurt too badly. The doctors couldn't save her. She died in the accident. His face crumpled and he began to cry, deep, heaving sobs that shook his injured body. I carefully gathered him into my arms, mindful of his surgical wounds and IV lines. I want Mom, he cried against my shoulder. Please get Mom. I wish I could, buddy. I whispered, my own tears falling into his hair. I wish I could. The doctors explained that Noah's physical recovery would be lengthy and challenging. Multiple fractures in his pelvis meant he would need to learn to walk again. His punctured lung required careful monitoring. The psychological trauma of the accident and losing his mother would require specialized therapy beyond what the hospital could provide. I took an extended leave of absence from work, grateful for the family medical leave policy that allowed me to focus entirely on Noah's recovery. My team sent care packages and virtual gift cards for food delivery. Jessica's parents extended their stay indefinitely, providing crucial support and giving Noah the comfort of familiar loved ones. 2 weeks after the accident, I received a call from our insurance company. Jessica's life insurance policy would pay out $500,000. The amount surprised me. I had remembered it being much less, but Jessica had apparently increased her coverage during her recent promotion. The money would ensure Noah could receive the best care possible, including specialized trauma therapy not covered by health insurance. It would also provide financial stability during my unpaid leave and help establish a college fund for Noah's future. A future Jessica had always been determined to secure for him. As I processed this information, trying to reconcile the cold financial transaction with the incalculable loss of my wife, I had no idea that this insurance settlement would soon become the focus of yet another painful betrayal. 1 week after Jessica's funeral, Noah had improved enough to be discharged from the hospital. We had converted our downstairs guest room into a temporary bedroom for him since he couldn't navigate stairs with his injuries. Patricia and Michael had returned home briefly to handle some personal matters, but promised to return the following week to help with Noah's care. The house felt eerily quiet without Jessica's presence. I had removed the calendar from the refrigerator because seeing her handwriting, notes about teacher meetings, Noah's soccer practice, dinner plans with friends, triggered waves of grief so intense they left me gasping for air. Her clothes still hung in our closet. I couldn't bear to touch them yet. Noah insisted on sleeping with her cardigan, the lavender one she often wore in the evenings, its fabric still faintly scented with her perfume. That Saturday afternoon, Noah had finally fallen asleep after a difficult morning of pain and tears. I sat at the kitchen table attempting to organize the mountain of medical bills, insurance paperwork, and funeral expenses. The notification from the life insurance company had arrived, confirming the policy would be paid within 30 days. It provided a small measure of relief amid the chaos of our new reality. The doorbell rang its cheerful tone, jarring in our house of mourning. I hurried to answer before it could wake Noah, expecting perhaps a neighbor with another casserole or one of Jessica's colleagues dropping off class projects Noah's students had made for him. Instead, my parents stood on the porch, Amber half hidden behind them. They hadn't called to announce their visit, hadn't asked if today was a good day, if Noah was up for visitors, if I needed anything specific. They simply appeared as if dropping by for a casual weekend visit. "We thought we'd check on you two," my mother said, her smile too bright for the circumstances. "See how Noah is recovering." I hesitated, then stepped back to let them in. "He's asleep right now. The pain medication makes him drowsy." They followed me into the living room, taking seats without being invited. Amber immediately pulled out her phone thumbs, tapping rapidly at the screen. "The flowers we sent to the hospital were lovely, weren't they?" my mother continued. "White lilies. Very appropriate." I nodded, not trusting myself to respond without bitterness. "Terrible thing what happened," my father added, glancing around the room as if searching for something. "Just terrible. But you're young, son. Eventually, you'll move forward." Move forward, not move on. The distinction wasn't lost on me. Jessica had been dead less than 3 weeks. "How's Noah handling it?" my mother asked. "Children often bounce back faster than we expect." "He's not bouncing back," I replied flatly. "He's traumatized in physical pain and grieving his mother. It will take years of therapy and support for him to process this loss." An uncomfortable silence followed. Amber looked up from her phone. "Did the insurance stuff get sorted out?" Jessica had life insurance, right? The abrupt change of subject caught me off guard. "Yes, she had a policy through her school district." My father leaned forward, suddenly engaged in the conversation. "Substantial coverage, I imagine teachers' unions negotiate good benefits." "It's enough," I said cautiously, an uneasy feeling settling in my stomach. It will help with Noah's medical expenses." My parents exchanged glances. My mother cleared her throat. "That's actually one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you, Bryson. About Jessica's insurance settlement." The uneasiness crystallized into dread. "What about it?" "Well," my father began using the same tone he had employed when explaining why they couldn't contribute to my college education. "We've been discussing it as a family, and we think it would be fair if you shared some of that money with us." I stared at him, certain I had misheard. "Shared the life insurance with you?" 50%, my mother clarified, as if specifying the amount made the request more reasonable. "Your sister is going through a difficult time financially. Her wedding is in 6 months, and they've already put deposits down on the venue and catering. Plus, she's been wanting to start her own business." Amber nodded enthusiastically. "A nail salon. I've already found the perfect location, but the startup costs are higher than I expected." I looked from one face to another, searching for some sign that this was a bizarre, tasteless joke. Finding none, I asked, "You want me to give you half of Jessica's life insurance money, meant to support her son after her death, so Amber can have an expensive wedding and open a nail salon? When you put it that way, it sounds cold." My father frowned. "We're family. Families support each other. Jessica would have wanted to help family, wouldn't she?" Something inside me snapped. The grief, exhaustion, and shock of the past weeks coalesced into cold fury. "You didn't even attend her funeral on time," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "You left early for a dress fitting. You didn't visit Noah in the hospital once. And now you want her insurance money." "Now, Bryson." My mother began, her tone condescending. "We understand you're grieving, but there's no need to be dramatic. We've always expected that as the successful one in the family, you would help support the rest of us. That's what families do." "That's what your family does," I corrected her. "You've always expected me to give and Amber to take. Even now, when I've lost my wife and Noah has lost his mother, your priority is how you can benefit from our tragedy." My father's expression hardened. "We've supported you your entire life." I laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. "How?" "By consistently prioritizing Amber. By missing every important event in my life. By responding to the news of Jessica's death with, 'Call us tomorrow.'" Amber rolled her eyes. "You always act like such a victim, Bryson. Some of us have real problems." "Real problems?" I stood up, trembling with anger. "My wife is dead. My 7-year-old son is learning to walk again and cries himself to sleep every night asking for his mother. Those are real problems, Amber. A delayed wedding and nail salon are inconveniences." "You're being selfish," my mother declared. "Jessica's money should benefit the whole family." "It wasn't Jessica's money," I said. "It's Noah's future. His therapy. His education. His security after losing his mother. And you will never see a penny of it." My father stood, pointing his finger at me. "Don't be hasty. We can get lawyers involved if necessary. We're still Noah's grandparents. We have rights." "Rights," I repeated incredulously. "What rights?" "The right to ignore him for 7 years and then demand his mother's life insurance. The right to put your daughter's nail salon above your grandson's recovery from traumatic injuries. Get out of my house." "You can't just cut us off," my mother protested. "We're family." "No," I said, the word final and liberating. "You're not. Not anymore. A family supports each other through tragedy. A family shows up. A family puts the needs of a grieving child above their own wants. You have demonstrated repeatedly and conclusively that you are not my family in any meaningful sense of the word. You'll regret this." My father warned, his face flushing red. "We can make things very difficult for you. Grandparents have legal rights. We could sue for visitation for a portion of the settlement, as Noah's legal guardians." "I'm Noah's legal guardian," I corrected him. "His only legal guardian. And you've never shown the slightest interest in being grandparents until money became involved. I doubt any judge would be impressed by your sudden concern." The noise of our argument had awakened Noah. I heard him calling weakly from the guest room. "Dad, is someone here?" "You need to leave," I told my parents and sister, moving toward Noah's room. "Now. Don't contact us again." My mother's face crumpled in what might have been genuine distress or merely thwarted expectations. "Bryson, please. We're just trying to help the family." "Goodbye," I said, firmly opening the front door. They left, my father muttering about lawyers and ingratitude, Amber complaining that her wedding plans would have to be scaled back. I closed the door behind them and leaned against it, suddenly exhausted. "Dad," Noah called again, his voice small and frightened. I went to him, finding him struggling to sit up in bed, wincing with pain at the movement. "Hey, buddy. I'm sorry we woke you." "Was that Grandma and Grandpa I heard yelling?" I sat carefully on the edge of his bed, helping him adjust his position. "Yes, it was. They came to visit, but they had to leave." "Were you fighting?" His brown eyes, so like Jessica's, were troubled. I considered how to answer, weighing truth against protection. "We had a disagreement," I said finally. "About adult things. About Mom." "Sort of," I admitted. "About what's best for you and me now that Mom is gone." Noah was quiet for a moment, his small face serious beyond his years. "Are they coming back?" The question held no hope, only wariness. Even at 7, Noah had registered their absence throughout his life, their indifference to his achievements and interests. Their absence during his hospitalization had only confirmed what he already sensed, that his paternal grandparents' love was conditional at best, non-existent at worst. "No, buddy," I said gently. "I don't think they'll be coming back." He nodded, accepting this with a resignation that broke my heart. "That's okay. We have Grandma Patricia and Grandpa Michael, and we have each other." I hugged him carefully, this wise, wounded child who had already lost too much. "Yes, we do. We absolutely do." As Noah drifted back to sleep, I made a silent promise to both him and Jessica. I would protect our son from anyone who might harm him, physically, emotionally, or financially. Even if those people shared our blood. Some family ties I had finally accepted deserved to be severed. True to their threats, my parents did not disappear quietly. 3 days after their visit, I received a certified letter from a family law attorney stating their intention to pursue grandparents' rights and requesting mediation regarding Jessica's life insurance settlement. The letter claimed they had been unjustly denied access to their grandson and suggested they had contributed significantly to Noah's well-being throughout his life. I contacted a lawyer immediately, Barbara Winters, who specialized in family law. After reviewing the letter and listening to my account of my parents' involvement, or lack thereof, in Noah's life, she was cautiously optimistic. Grandparents' rights vary by state, she explained, but generally require an established relationship with the child and evidence that denying access would harm the child's well-being. Based on what you've told me, they have neither. She requested documentation of their interaction with Noah over the years: birthday cards, gifts, photographs of visits, any evidence of an ongoing relationship. I could provide almost nothing. A few generic birthday cards signed Grandma and Grandpa. 3 photographs from Noah's entire life where they appeared with him. No record of phone calls, video chats, or meaningful engagement. As for the insurance settlement, Barbara continued, they have absolutely no legal claim to that money. It was a policy Jessica purchased specifically to provide for her family in case of her death. Their attempt to claim any portion of it is frankly absurd. Despite Barbara's reassurance, the threat of a legal battle added another layer of stress to an already unbearable situation. I changed our phone number and installed security cameras at the house after my parents made 2 unannounced visits while Noah and I were at physical therapy appointments. Patricia and Michael had returned as promised and were horrified by my parents' behavior. "In all my years," Patricia said after hearing about their demand for the insurance money, "I've never encountered such selfishness, especially toward a child who suffered so much." Noah's physical recovery progressed slowly but steadily. The pediatric physical therapist, a kind woman named Rachel, came to our home 3 times weekly. She had a gift for making painful exercises seem like games, drawing smiles from Noah even on his worst days. By the end of the first month home, he could stand with support and take a few tentative steps with a walker. The emotional healing proved far more challenging. Noah's nightmares persisted, vivid terrors that left him screaming for Jessica, or reliving the accident he barely remembered. The hospital had recommended Dr. Elaine Thompson, a child psychologist specializing in trauma and grief. Her practice was 45 minutes away, but her expertise made the drive worthwhile. Noah is experiencing complicated grief, she explained after their third session. The trauma of the accident is intertwined with his grief over losing his mother. It's like having two separate psychological injuries that keep re-aggravating each other. She suggested a combination of play therapy, cognitive behavioral techniques, and EMDR, eye movement desensitization, and reprocessing specifically adapted for children. These specialized treatments weren't fully covered by insurance, but Jessica's life insurance money ensured Noah could receive the best care available. He's a remarkably resilient child, Dr. Thompson told me. The strong foundation of love and security you and Jessica built is helping him tremendously. Children can recover from profound loss when they have at least one stable, loving caregiver who prioritizes their needs. You're doing that for him. Her words provided comfort on days when I questioned everything. Whether I was saying the right things, making the right decisions, providing enough support while managing my own grief. I had joined a support group for widowed parents, meeting weekly in a church basement with others navigating the impossible terrain of raising children alone after losing a spouse. The stories shared there, raw, honest accounts of both struggles and small victories, helped me feel less isolated in my experience. Jessica's colleagues continued to be an unexpected source of support. They established a meal train that delivered home-cooked food 3 times weekly. Several teachers volunteered to tutor Noah, so he wouldn't fall behind academically during his recovery. The school principal offered to hold Jessica's position as lead teacher open, creating a memorial garden in her name until a permanent replacement was necessary. My own company demonstrated remarkable compassion. My manager extended my leave of absence with partial pay, arranged for colleagues to cover my projects, and ensured our health insurance remained active. My team sent weekly care packages for Noah, Lego sets, books, games that could be played one-handed while his dominant arm was still healing. 6 weeks after my parents' visit, we had our day in court. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, reviewed the evidence presented by both sides. My parents had submitted affidavits claiming they had been actively involved grandparents until I unreasonably cut them off after Jessica's death. They described birthday parties they had never attended, school events they had never witnessed, and traditions they had never participated in. Barbara methodically dismantled their claims, presenting Noah's school records, showing Jessica's parents as emergency contacts but not mine. Photographs from every birthday party Noah had had, none including my parents, and testimony from Jessica's parents about my parents' absence from Noah's life. The judge was particularly interested in the timing of their lawsuit, coinciding precisely with the life insurance settlement. When my parents' lawyer attempted to argue that they were merely concerned about Noah's welfare and wanted to ensure the money was properly managed for his benefit, Barbara presented evidence of their specific demand for 15% for Amber's wedding and business venture. The judge's decision was unequivocal. She dismissed their petition for grandparents' rights, citing a clear lack of established relationship with the child, and concerning evidence suggesting financial motivation rather than genuine concern for the child's welfare. Furthermore, she issued a temporary restraining order preventing them from contacting us directly or coming to our home, stating that their behavior constituted harassment of a family in crisis. As we left the courthouse, Barbara squeezed my shoulder. This is a decisive victory. They might appeal, but given the judge's findings, it's unlikely they would succeed. The legal victory provided closure on one front, but the work of rebuilding our lives continued. Noah's physical recovery progressed more rapidly than expected. By the 3-month mark, he had graduated from the walker to forearm crutches, his determination pushing him through pain and frustration. His emotional healing followed a less linear path, with good days followed by devastating setbacks. The first time he laughed genuinely after the accident, at a silly joke in a book we were reading, I had to excuse myself to cry in the bathroom, overwhelmed by both joy at the sound and grief that Jessica hadn't been there to hear it. We established new routines that acknowledged our changed reality, while preserving what we could of our former life. Friday movie nights continued, though we now included a tradition of sharing one memory of Jessica before starting the film. Sunday adventures became possible again as Noah gained mobility, though we adjusted activities to accommodate his limitations. I learned to make dinosaur-shaped pancakes, though mine were never as perfect as Jessica's had been. Jessica's parents visited regularly, providing Noah with the grandparental love and support my parents had never offered. They shared stories about Jessica's childhood, keeping her memory vibrant in our home. Michael taught Noah to play chess just as he had taught Jessica. Patricia brought Jessica's childhood books, reading the same stories to Noah that she had once read to his mother. Through it all, Noah showed extraordinary courage. On his worst days, when pain or grief overwhelmed him, he would hold Jessica's cardigan and cry until exhaustion claimed him. But increasingly, there were good moments. Genuine smiles, interest, and favorite activities, connections with friends who visited. The first time he asked to invite a classmate over 4 months after the accident felt like a milestone in his recovery. My own grief remained a constant companion, though its character evolved over time. The initial shocking pain gave way to a persistent ache punctuated by moments of acute loss. Finding Jessica's handwritten notes in a book, smelling her perfume on clothing. I hadn't yet washed, hearing a song that had been special to us. I learned to function alongside the grief rather than waiting for it to disappear, finding small comforts in preserving Jessica's memory and witnessing Noah's gradual healing. 6 months after the accident, the legal threat from my parents definitively ended. Their appeal was denied, and the temporary restraining order was extended for a full year. The court's decision provided a measure of security, allowing us to focus entirely on moving forward without fear of further disruption. It was one battle I hadn't chosen but had needed to win for Noah's sake, and for the future Jessica would have wanted us to build. 6 months after the accident, Noah's physical therapist declared him officially graduated from regular sessions. He still had some limitations. Long walks remained challenging, and he tired more quickly than before. But the difference between the broken child in the hospital bed and the boy who now chased our neighbor's puppy around the backyard was nothing short of miraculous. "He's a fighter," Rachel said during our final regular session, "just like his dad." I hadn't thought of myself that way, as a fighter, but perhaps she was right. We had both fought through circumstances that once seemed insurmountable, each step forward a victory against despair. With Noah's improved mobility came the possibility of change. Our house, once a sanctuary, now held too many painful memories. Jessica's presence lingered in every room. The kitchen where she had danced while cooking, the living room where she had graded papers on Sunday afternoons, the garden where her half-finished projects still waited for hands that would never return. After much consideration and several conversations with Noah's therapist, I decided we would move to a new home, not to erase Jessica's memory, but to create space for healing. We found a house in the same school district, a single-story ranch with a fenced backyard and a treehouse that sold Noah on the property immediately. The move was both practical, no stairs for Noah to navigate, and symbolic, a fresh canvas for the next chapter of our story. In our new home, we created a special corner dedicated to Jessica. Photos of her surrounded a small table where we placed items that connected us to her memory. The seashell collection from our California trip, the first edition copy of Charlotte's Web she had read to Noah countless times. The ceramic mug Noah had made for her last Mother's Day. It wasn't a shrine, but a living memorial. A place where we could feel close to her without being overwhelmed by loss. Noah returned to school part-time, attending mornings only at first, then gradually extending to full days as his stamina improved. His friends welcomed him back with handmade cards and careful hugs, instructed by their parents to be gentle with their recently injured classmate. His teacher, Mrs. Nelson, had been Jessica's close colleague and took special care to support Noah, recognizing the emotional triggers that might arise in the classroom setting. The first parent-teacher conference without Jessica by my side felt like walking into the room missing a limb. Mrs. Nelson seemed to understand, opening the meeting by acknowledging Jessica's absence before gently transitioning to Noah's academic progress. He's doing remarkably well under the circumstances, she told me. There are moments when he gets quiet or distracted, usually when something reminds him of Jessica. But he's engaged in learning, participating in class discussions, and maintaining grade-level performance in most subjects. She paused, then added, Jessica would be so proud of him. And of you. Those words, simple but profound, sustained me through many difficult days that followed. I held them close during Noah's inevitable setbacks, during the nights when grief felt overwhelming, during moments when the responsibility of raising our son alone seemed impossible. One unexpected source of healing came from establishing firm boundaries with people beyond my parents. Well-meaning friends who offered platitudes about Jessica being in a better place, or suggestions that I should start dating again, were gently but firmly corrected. Colleagues who expected me to return to my previous workload immediately were reminded of my priorities. Distant relatives who suddenly expressed interest in Noah after years of indifference were kept at arm's length. Jessica's life insurance settlement had given us financial stability, allowing me to reduce my working hours temporarily to focus on Noah's recovery. I used part of the money to establish a scholarship in Jessica's name at her elementary school, awarded annually to a graduating fifth grader who demonstrated the kindness and creativity that had defined Jessica's teaching style. Noah asked increasingly complex questions about death, grief, and memory as his emotional processing evolved. Will I forget what Mom looked like? He asked one evening as I tucked him into bed. Sometimes I can't remember her face exactly. You won't forget, I assured him, showing him the photo album we had created together. And even if some details fade, you'll always remember how she made you feel. Safe and loved and important. Do you think she can see us? He asked another night. Dr. Thompson says some people believe that and some don't. What do you believe? I asked, encouraging him to develop his own understanding. He considered this seriously. I think she can. Not like watching television, but she knows we're okay. That helps her not worry. His innocent wisdom often left me speechless, humbled by his resilience and ability to find comfort in the most devastating circumstances. 7 months after the accident, I had a chance encounter that brought unexpected closure. While picking up Noah's medication at the pharmacy, I recognized a name badge, Kevin Martinez, the paramedic who had been first on the scene of Jessica's accident. He recognized me as well, having seen me at the hospital in those first terrible hours. How's your son doing? He asked, genuine concern in his eyes. Much better, I replied. He's back in school, almost fully recovered physically. Kevin hesitated, then said, There's something I've wanted to tell you. Your wife was conscious briefly when we arrived at the scene before. He paused, clearly choosing his words carefully. She asked about your son first. When we told her he was alive, she said, Tell Bryson and Noah I love them. Tell them they're my whole heart. I thought you might want to know those were her last words. The information hit me like a physical blow, both painful and precious. Jessica's final thoughts had been of us, her final words, an expression of love. I thanked Kevin through tears, this stranger who had given me an invaluable gift. The knowledge that Jessica had died thinking of her family, that her last conscious act had been to send us her love. That evening I shared this with Noah in age-appropriate terms. The paramedic who helped Mom told me something special today, I explained. He said Mom's last words were about how much she loved us. Noah absorbed this information silently, then asked, Can we write it down so we don't forget? We added her final message to our memory corner, written in Noah's careful handwriting on decorative paper. You're my whole heart. Through this journey of grief and healing, I've learned profound lessons about the true meaning of family. Biology creates relatives, but love and commitment create family. Jessica's parents, who drove through the night to reach their injured grandson and grieving son-in-law, were family. My colleagues who covered my workload without complaint were family. The neighbors who mowed our lawn for months without being asked were family. The parents of Noah's friends who included him in weekend activities to give me occasional respite were family. And my biological parents, who saw our tragedy as a financial opportunity, were not family in any meaningful sense. Cutting them off wasn't a failure or a surrender. It was an act of protection and self-respect. It created space for authentic connections to flourish, for Noah to be surrounded only by people who genuinely loved him, who would never exploit his vulnerability or mine. Today, Noah and I continue building our new life one day at a time. We honor Jessica's memory, not through endless grief, but by living fully, as she would have wanted. Noah has joined a swimming class specifically for children with physical challenges. I've returned to work full-time, but with different priorities, leaving the office promptly at 5, regardless of unfinished projects. We have dinner together every night, sharing stories about our days and memories of Jessica when they naturally arise. The pain hasn't disappeared. I don't believe it ever will completely, but it has transformed into something that can coexist with joy, with hope, with plans for the future. Last week, Noah laughed until he couldn't breathe at a silly joke I told during breakfast. Jessica would have loved hearing that sound. In moments like these, I feel her presence most strongly, not as a ghost or a supernatural visitation, but as the enduring impact of her love on both of us. If there's one lesson I would share from this experience, it's this: surround yourself only with people who show up when it matters most. Blood relation means nothing compared to the person who sits with you in a hospital waiting room at 3 in the morning, who brings groceries without being asked, who remembers your child's favorite book or toy or food. True family reveals itself not during celebrations, but during catastrophes. Pay attention to who stays when the world falls apart. Those are your people. That is your real family. Have you ever had to make difficult choices about who deserves a place in your life? Drop a comment below letting me know how you've defined family in your own experience. If this story resonated with you, please hit subscribe to follow our continuing journey of healing. Every like and share helps others find this community of people supporting each other through life's most challenging moments. Thank you for listening to our story, and remember, sometimes the family we choose is more valuable than the family we're born into.